Just start recording.
Recording in progress.
Okay, welcome everyone. This is a hearing of the Committee of Adjustment for the Town of Grimsby. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'm first going to introduce the committee members and staff. So committee members in attendance this evening are Dan Collins to my right. Dylan Bailey, I think, will be a few minutes late. He'll join us online. Adam Mottershead we have online. And Fabia Billing to my right as well, and myself, Kevin Antonitis. So staff members present this evening are Michaela Bray, a planner, over here in this table, Bianca Verrecchia, planner as well, Fiona Main, planner. Is Fiona online? Oh, there she is. Hi, Fiona. And Dilhara Abiwardine, she's to my left, the administrative coordinator. So I just have some announcements before we begin the meeting. The live streaming, members of the public are advised that our meetings are live streamed by the Town of Grimsby. Individuals and media may be audibly and or visually recorded during this meeting. As a reminder, all electronic devices are to be in silent mode during our committee meeting. I'll just outline the procedures as well for this evening. The purpose of the application and any relative correspondence will be heard, following which the applicant will be given the opportunity to address the application. Any person concerned with the application will then be given an opportunity to speak. At the conclusion of the discussion, the committee will render a decision and advise of any applicable conditions. Copies of the decisions will be mailed to the applicant or agent and to any other person who files a written request. To request a copy of the decision, please email Dilhara, the Secretary-Treasurer, at coa@grimsby.ca. The applicant, the Town of Grimsby, the minister, or a specified person or public body has the right to appeal either the decision itself or the conditions of consent to the Ontario Land Tribunal, the OLT, within 20 days of the date of giving of notice under subsection 17 is completed for consent, and within 20 days as well of the date of decision for a minor variance application. Specified persons and certain public bodies include public utilities, but do not include an individual or community association. Everyone present will be given an opportunity to comment on the applications being heard. Please address your comments and questions through the chair. Each participant will be provided 5 minutes to speak, and each participant may speak only once. If you hear your comment being presented by someone else, please do not duplicate the remarks. Just add, I concur with the remarks provided so far. When you're called, we ask that you just state your name and address for the record. Agencies commenting on applications may request that certain conditions be imposed. Voicing objections to these conditions will not adversely affect the committee's decision. All members of the committee have viewed the properties on the agenda tonight and are familiar with the lands that are subject to the applications. So regarding pecuniary interest, do any members have a pecuniary interest in the matters before us this evening? No, and I have none. Oh, Dylan's joined us as well. Welcome, Dylan. So we do have all 5 members. Requests for withdrawal or adjournment. Dilhara, any withdrawals or adjournment?
No.
No. I know we have 2 requests or discussion about a request for deferrals. We'll deal with those first. Regarding the previous minutes, regarding the minute or the meeting held on September 19th, 2023, I have a motion here moved by Dan Collins, seconded by Fabia Billing, that the minutes of the meeting held September 19th, 2023 be approved. Are there any further discussions on these, on this motion? No? If not, then all those in favor on that motion say aye or raise their hand. Opposed, if any? Was carried. We have 7 applications before us this evening. We'll announce the application. As mentioned, Dilhara will go through the staff report, and then we'll allow the applicant to speak first if they like and add to it or respond to the staff report, and then we'll open it up to the public, and then the committee will ask questions and so on. So we have moved the agenda around a little bit, but we'll call the application and the address ahead of time. So, Dilhara?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the first application is one, I'm just going to share my screen here. Okay. So the first application is A2523 for 143 Lake Street, Unit Number 3. The purpose of this application is to construct a new two-story single detached dwelling to permit a maximum building depth of 26.06 meters, whereas a maximum of 20 meters is permitted as per section 7.2.1, table 11 in zoning bylaw 1445 as amended. This is an image of the site plan, the same image that was circulated with the notice of hearing for the application. And that's an image of the neighborhood for context. And these are the current conditions of the site. This is what is proposed by the applicant. And these are the agencies that provided correspondence. The NPCA has requested the application to be deferred due to insufficient information. They are requesting a geotechnical study prior to providing comments on this application. So as a result, planning staff have suggested that the application be deferred as well, and the applicant is in favor of the deferral. So over to you, Mr. Chair.
So the applicant is here, or no? Okay, but they are in favor of the deferral?
Yes.
Okay. Then do we have a motion to defer the application? Do we have a specified date, or is it until such time as the application is complete with the...
Until such time that the NPCA can provide comments.
Okay. So a mover and a seconder on that? Dylan? A seconder, Adam? Just got to get that. So a motion then to defer any further comments, so we'll make it to the next available meeting when the application has been deemed complete with the report that was requested, or something to that effect. Is that okay, Adam?
Yes, please.
Dylan, yeah? Okay.
Sounds good, thing.
Yep, thank you.
All those in favor say aye or raise their hand. Opposed, if any, is carried. Okay, next one.
Thank you. Okay, so the next application we have is for what was formerly 328 Main Street West. And the purpose of this application is to facilitate the construction of a single detached dwelling to permit a minimum interior side yard of 1.5 meters in the west and 1.2 meters in the east, whereas 1.8 meters is permitted as per section 7.2.1, table 11. And to permit a minimum front yard of 16 meters, whereas 20 meters is permitted, according to the zoning bylaw. And this is an image of the site plan, which was circulated with the notice of hearing. So there are two parts to this application, and this is part one that's outlined over here. And that's an image of the current conditions. That is what is proposed for the site. And these are the agencies that have provided correspondence so far. I will just go through part two as well before I go through the correspondence. So part two of this lot, the purpose of the application is again to facilitate that the construction of that detached dwelling, and to permit a minimum interior side yard of 1.2 meters on the west and 1.5 meters on the east, whereas 1.8 meters is permitted as per the bylaw, and to permit a minimum front yard of 16 meters, whereas 20 meters is permitted according to the bylaw. So the same images pretty much, and the right side of the lot is outlined over here, which is part 2. And that's an image of the current conditions on the site. So this application requires a heritage impact assessment. So basically, staff are recommending it be deferred until that study can be completed. Yeah, so that's most of the other agencies don't have very many comments. Public Works lists a requirement of a lot grading and drainage plan for the 2 sites. And yeah, over to you.
Okay, so there was a request or a recommendation for deferral as well. Is the applicant or their agent here? Yes. Could we just get your name and address for the record, or the firm? Yeah, firm name. We're not going to get into the actual specifics of the application yet, but maybe just address the deferral request first.
Oh, certainly. Mark Candello, I'm a planner at Glen Schnarr Associates here on behalf of the applicant. We do not support staff's recommendation for deferral and would request that the application be heard tonight.
Okay, so what's the reason for not?
So there continues to be a difference of opinion on the need for a heritage impact assessment as it relates to the review of the minor variance application, and I'm prepared to speak to those nuances tonight. But that is the request for not supporting the request for deferral and asking that the committee would hear the application tonight.
Could we just hear from the heritage planner, perhaps? What's the difference of opinion here? You're requesting one, I believe. Bianca? And then we'll hear from them what the differences are before we address the deferral request. Go ahead. Yeah, you can do it from there if you.
Yeah, so my comments continue to be as outlined within the memo. There's very significant cultural heritage resources to the east and to the west of the subject sites. They are protected. They're currently within notice of intention to designate, and under the Heritage Act, they are protected as if the designation was already complete. And within our official plan, we have policies that adjacent development can occur when heritage resources have been evaluated, or impacts to the heritage resources have been evaluated, and if required, those impacts are identified, those being mitigated. And so because these buildings are adjacent to the site, the setback of or the proposed setback of 16 meters would put the new structures in available views to and from the properties. And I also wanted to note that both properties have a shared history. They were both built by the Pettit family, and that was the original Pettit land that they farmed from the late 1700s. So there's a connection between the buildings. And so this setback that's being proposed would limit views to and from those structures. And because of that, we think it's appropriate that a heritage impact assessment be conducted and that change be evaluated. And we think it's the right thing to do with the buildings.
Okay, thank you. Was it Mark? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Mark.
Yes, Max.
Did you said there was some differences of opinion there as to the interpretations?
Yeah, so through you, Chair, there is a difference in there's a different interpretation of how staff are applying their policy framework as it relates to the heritage building at the 326 Main Street. I can get into those specifics if you would like on where our difference in interpretation lies, but there is a difference in how the policy is being interpreted and applied in this situation.
I guess I'll leave it up to the committee if they feel the recommendation from staff is to defer it. If you want to vote on that first or hear further information from the applicant or the planner. Anyone on the committee offer an opinion? Fabia?
Dylan has a question.
Oh, sorry. Dylan, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to hear the rationale as to why the information requested by the town can't be provided. I mean, town staff, as you know, is recommending that the application be deferred until this information is provided. So I'd like to hear from the applicant's representative, if we could, before voting on it, as to why that can't be done. Just to have a full picture, but I still think, yeah, I mean, I'd like to sort of hear Mark out to hear what he has to say, but still would like to be able to vote on the deferral, because don't know if I'm quite comfortable proceeding with the review of the application given staff's report.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead, Mark, if you want to maybe
Certainly.
elaborate on that.
Absolutely. So through you, Chair, as I noted earlier, that there's a difference of opinion in how the application has been reviewed in terms of the context of the policy. We do not support the recommendation for deferral and request that the committee provide a decision on the applications tonight. When the application was submitted, the adjacent property in question at 326 Main Street was considered a listed property under the Ontario Heritage Act, and is still, in my opinion, considered a listed property. Following the submission, I understand town staff have taken steps to designate that property under the Ontario Heritage Act. However, that process, in my opinion, has not yet been completed, as the property has not yet been designated, and a designation bylaw has not been approved by council and registered on the property. I appreciate and recognize that the comments provided by Heritage staff, and that they provided the opinion that the adjacent property at 326 Main Street meets the town's definition for a protected heritage property, and that the applicant should be evaluated under section 8.18 under the official plan, town's official plan. And I'll just speak to section 8.18. And 8.18 refers to development and site alterations that may be permitted in the vicinity of a protected heritage property, where the proposed development and site alteration has been evaluated, and it has been demonstrated that the heritage attributes of the protected heritage property will be conserved. In that policy framework, there's two important phrases: protected heritage property and heritage attributes, which are defined terms in the town's official plan. And I'll speak to those. The town's official plan defines protected heritage property as a property designated under parts 4, 5, and 6 of the Heritage Act, is a heritage conservation easement property under parts 2 and 4 of the Heritage Act, a property that is subject to the covenants and agreements between the owner of a property and a conservation body of a local government registered on title and executed with the primary purpose of preserving, conserving, maintaining a cultural heritage feature or resource, or preventing it from destruction, demolition, or loss. And the town also defines heritage attributes as the principal features, characteristics, context, and appearance that attribute to the cultural heritage significance of a protected heritage property, which we heard is a property that is designated under the Ontario Heritage Act. The town is applying policies, in my opinion, on a property that is considered listed, as opposed to being designated, and which we feel is inappropriate when reviewing in the context of this minor variance application. I can appreciate in the staff report that it refers to 2 meetings that the applicant had with town staff. I will acknowledge that those meetings did happen, and at those meetings, staff did ask for a heritage impact assessment. But similar to staff's position, our position on the matter has not changed, and that through those meetings we shared our interpretation of staff's policies, and that a HIA, Heritage Impact Assessment, should not be required when reviewing the minor variance application. And those are my submissions as it relates to the need for a HIA when it comes to these applications.
So you're saying even if we defer it, you're not going to do the heritage study?
I would say there's a fundamental difference in opinion on the need for an HIA. That's correct.
Right. So for those of you who don't recall, I can't remember when we dealt with this, the committee dealt with this as a land division hearing a year or 2 ago, and it was turned down by the committee unanimous, but I believe you went to the OLT and got that decision, or got the approval of the severance.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. I can't remember the dates, but
Yep.
it was about a year or 2 ago, maybe.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah. Do you have enough information now, Dylan, to...
My only comment would be is the planner. So it's good information to know that even if we do vote to defer, that there would be no point because the applicant isn't going to provide it anyway, which kind of puts us in a bit of a difficult position, given the fact that staff is recommending, you know, in order for them to give a full assessment, that the heritage impact assessment be complete. So it's kind of a catch-22, you know, do we make a decision based on information that isn't forthcoming, or do we base our decision on information that staff wasn't able to incorporate? So, I mean, we're the ones now caught in the middle. I would just think that the applicant would acquiesce to what the town is suggesting in order to strengthen their case with the committee that's ultimately deciding this, unless the ultimate goal is to simply go to the OLT. My only comment, Mr. Chair, would be is if the heritage planner had any comments based on Mark's statement before we either vote to defer or, I guess, hear the application.
Yeah, she does. She's raised her hand, so we'll hear from Bianca.
1 minute.
Oh,
Can I
sorry.
just ask, can you guys who are online hear what Bianca is saying? Or, because I think if they can't, you might as well.
She's going to come up to the mic so she can
that'll
hear.
work.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Thank you. Through you, the chair. The mic's on, yeah, okay. So under section 34 of the Ontario Heritage Act, there's a heading underneath the notice of intention to designate, and it's for interim control, alteration, demolition, and removal. And under this provision, it says section 33 and 34 apply with necessary modifications to properties as the day of the notice of intention to designate the property is given under section 29, as though the designation process was complete and the property was designated under section 29. So in accordance with the Heritage Act, these properties are considered as Part 4 designations. So they are protected as protected heritage properties under the official plan. So that's an interim policy within the legislation that provides that interim protection to the sites while they finish the notice of intention to designate process.
All right, there you have it. We have a motion on the deferral then. And if it's defeated, then we hear the application. But if it passes, then it's deferred until the requested information. Dylan? Oh, sorry, Adam?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, just one question through to the Heritage Planner. She's citing provincial legislation, and I believe the application is citing local legislation. If there's a conflict there, the provincial legislation always prevails. So that's my rationale for, I guess I'll move for the deferral.
Sorry, a seconder for deferral? Dylan? And you'll defer until what time or what meeting is your recommendation or your motion?
Maybe get the insight from our planning department on when they think we should defer to.
Bianca?
Through the chair, if I could, I was just going to provide some further clarification on there's no discrepancy between the local policies and the legislation. It's just under our official plan, it says it has to be designated as a Part 4 under the Heritage Act. And because it's in the notice of intention to designate, we have that interim control of protection. So it's considered a Part 4. So it falls under our definition. It's just that the interim policy was not included when they were assessing it. So it's the interim policy and the legislation that allows us to treat it as a Part 4. And then as for when to defer it, we had recommended once the cultural heritage impact assessment had been completed.
Okay, is that the wording you're comfortable with, Adam?
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay, seconded by Dylan. Any further discussion on the motion to defer then? All those in favor say aye or raise their hand. Opposed, if any? Was carried. Okay, the next application then.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, I should correct. Adam, I'm assuming that's for both Part 1 and Part 2 because there's two separate applications.
Yes,
So-
yes, that's correct. I should
Okay.
have specified that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fine. It's so noted. Thank you.
Okay, so the next application is a consent application B0423 for 260 Main Street East. The purpose of this application is to sever 841 plus or minus square meters of land shown on the provided sketch as Part 2 to retain 1,851 plus or minus square meters of land shown on the provided sketch as Parcel 1, to merge Part 2 with the adjacent lands to the east at 264 Main Street East. And this is an image of the site plan, which was circulated on the notice. This is a picture of the neighborhood for context. These are the current conditions of the site. And correspondence was received by these agencies. We have some conditions for this application. And I will read out the conditions now. That the applicant provide the Secretary Treasurer with deeds in triplicate for conveyance of the subject parcel, a registrable legal description of the subject parcel together with a copy of the deposited reference plan, if applicable, for the issuance of the certificate of consent. That the final certificate fee payable to the town of Grimsby be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer. That all conditions of consent be fulfilled within 1 year from the date of the notice of decision pursuant to subsection 5341 of the Planning Act, failing which this consent shall be deemed to be refused. Subsection 305 of Section 50 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, shall apply to any subsequent conveyance of transaction involving the severed land. Town staff will require lot grading and drainage plan demonstrating that stormwater runoff will not negatively impact nor rely upon neighboring properties. That is a condition from the Public Works Department. And so are these. That the applicant confirm that no existing utilities currently cross the proposed new property line. Should any services cross this new property line, the applicant will be responsible for costs associated with their relocation and or removal. Each lot shall be serviced individually. And the applicant obtains an entrance permit from the Public Works Department for the construction of all new driveway entrances. All entrances shall be completed in accordance with town standards. The following conditions from the Planning Department: that the applicant obtains a zoning bylaw amendment to achieve compliance with zoning bylaw 1445 as amended, and the applicant obtains an official plan amendment to achieve compliance with the Town of Grimsby official plan. And finally, one condition from the Heritage Department: that vegetative screening be planted along the new lot line at the western boundary of the severed parcel on 264 Main Street East to encourage retention of the wooded character of the retained residential lot. Thank you. Over to you, Mr.
Is the applicant or their agent here or willing to speak or wish to speak or add to the reports? Is there
Hi, sir. This is
there we go.
Mustafa. Yes, I'm here. I'm the agent of the applicant. We don't. I don't have anything to add. I think you guys know about this application. We've been working on it for more than 2 years, and yeah, we're happy with how it's going, and we just hoping to finish it ASAP. And that's all.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee first? Dylan?
Mr. Chair, this is just just so I'm clear, the purpose of this is in order for the additional parking that's required for the full use of the building to be completed or to be constructed, I guess. Is that sort of it in a nutshell, if I'm remembering correctly?
Yes, correct.
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it wasn't really shown. It's in the package, but it wasn't really shown on the overhead, but that's correct. So it's a lot addition. It's going from one property to the adjacent property to allow them to accommodate more parking for their proposed use. Adam?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. If my memory serves me correctly, we had this property, the actual corner property that is going to be added on to for us a few years ago, didn't we?
Yes, we did. There was a parking deficiency at that time for the use. I think they had medical or clinics, and then they were short on parking. So there was a variance for that. This addresses some of that, but I believe there's additional uses proposed here. So this addresses some of that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the committee before we open it up to the audience? If there's anyone else that would like to speak to this? Is there anyone, members of the public here to speak to this application? If not, then do I have a motion? We've read all the conditions and they're attached, but if we could have the mover and a seconder or mover read the motion itself then. Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I find it resolved that consent application B0423 for 260 Main Street East to sever 841 square meters of land shown on the provided sketch as Part 2 to retain 1,851 square meters of land on the provided sketch as Parcel 1. Part 2 is to merge with the adjacent lands to the east at 264 Main Street East, and that I recommend that it be approved with conditions. Would you like me to read the conditions?
They're the same as what was read already, then we're fine.
Yeah, that's correct.
A seconder? Adam? Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye or raise their hand. Opposed, if any, was carried. So there is a 20-day appeal period, and then you've got 1 year to fulfill all the conditions. Sorry, I'm speaking to the screen because I don't see him in there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, the next one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the next application is a minor variance, A2723 for 243 Main Street East. The purpose of this application is to construct an entrance to the basement and an addition to the dwelling, to permit a minimum rear yard of 4 meters, whereas 7.65 is required as per Section 7, Table 11, regulations applying to residential zones of the zoning bylaw, 1445 as amended, to facilitate the construction of the proposed addition to the existing dwelling, to permit an interior side yard of 1.25 meters, whereas 1.8 meters is required, and to permit a maximum encroachment of a deck into a required rear yard of 4 meters should variance A be approved, a distance of not more than 3.6 meters, whereas 2.5 meters is required as per Section 4.9C of our zoning bylaw. And this is an image of the site plan, which was circulated along with the notice. This is an image of the neighborhood for context. These are the current conditions of the site. And correspondence was received by these agencies and departments. So basically, we have just the one condition given by the Public Works, and everyone else has no objections. The one condition given by Public Works is that town staff will require a lot grading and drainage plan demonstrating that stormwater runoff will not negatively impact nor rely upon neighboring properties. The plan shall include all existing and proposed downspout discharge locations, all hardscape surfaces, and all physical features including decks, trees, walkways, pools, etc., both existing and proposed. Thank you.
Jerry, did you wish to elaborate or respond or anything? No comment. No comment? Okay. Any questions from the committee members? Dylan?
Just a clarification, Mr. Chair, can I, just to be clear, the interior side yard of 1.25 meters, is that when 1.8 is required, is that already existing, or is that like, is the building being modified in order to make that smaller, or is that just what it is now? I wasn't quite clear about on that one point.
Fiona or Bianca want to comment on that? What triggered that one?
I could just be looking at it or not understanding it correctly.
Dilhar, do you
just
mind
wasn't sure
putting
if
the
that was
site
already there.
plan back up? Yeah, so through the chair to member Bailey. So it's okay. So the interior side yard variance is it's more to legalize the existing setback that's there already. So any new construction is meant to meet the intent of the zoning bylaw. So I believe in the zone that this is located, it should really be a 1.8 meter setback. But of course, it would be better to align this addition with the house. So it's just to legalize the position of that addition being flush with the house that is already existing there.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Dylan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I
Okay.
much appreciate it.
Any further questions from the committee? No? If not, then is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this? I see there's a raging crowd ready to speak against this, Jerry. Okay, hearing none then, do I have a motion and a seconder? If the mover could read the motion and the condition requested.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I find it resolved that consent application A2723 for 243 Main Street East to permit a minimum rear yard of 4 meters, whereas 7.65 is required as per section 7, table 11. Regulations applying to residential zones of zoning bylaw 1445 as amended. To facilitate the construction of the proposed addition to the existing dwelling, permit an interior side yard of 1.25 meters, whereas 1.8 meters is required as per section 7, table 11. Regulations applying to residential zones of zoning bylaw 1445 as amended. To facilitate the construction of the proposed addition to the existing dwelling and permit a maximum encroachment of a deck into a required rear yard of 4 meters should variance A be approved, a distance of not more than 3.6 meters, whereas 2.5 meters is required as per section 4.9C of zoning bylaw 1445 as amended. I recommend that it be approved with conditions. And the condition is the town staff will require a lot grading and drainage plan demonstrating that storm water runoff will not negatively impact nor rely upon neighboring properties. The plan shall include all existing and proposed downspout discharge locations, all hardscape surfaces, and all physical features including decks, trees, walkways, pools, etc., both existing and proposed.
Seconder, Adam?
Actually, Mr. Chair, I want to offer a technical correction to the resolution as it's written. The application should actually
Friendly amendment? A friendly amendment to the motion? Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Actually says consent application. It's actually a minor variance application.
So noted. Okay, with that amendment, do we have a seconder? Oh, Dylan? All those further discussion on this motion then? All those in favor say aye or raise their hands. Opposed, if any, was carried. So again, there's a 20-day appeal period before it becomes final and binding. Thank you for attending. Okay, the next application, Dahar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me just share the screen again. Okay, so the next application we have is application A2623 for 26 Olive Street. The purpose of this minor variance application is to allow for a basement secondary suite and associated entry door, to permit a secondary suite located solely within a cellar, whereas not permitted per section 4.19D in zoning bylaw 1445 as amended, and to permit an alteration to the exterior appearance of the dwelling to accommodate a basement entry in the exterior side yard for a secondary suite, whereas per section 4.19C, exterior alterations are permitted to allow for rear basement entries only, per our zoning bylaw. This is an image of the site plan, which was circulated with the notice of hearing. This is aerial imagery, which shows you what the neighborhood looks like. These are the current conditions of the site. This is what is proposed. And these are the agencies that have provided comments. No objections have been received. Once again, we have just the one condition from the Public Works. The town staff will require a lot grading and drainage plan demonstrating that stormwater runoff will not negatively impact nor rely upon neighboring properties. The plan shall include all existing and proposed downspout discharge locations, all hardscape surfaces, and all physical features, including decks, trees, walkways, pools, etc., both existing and proposed. And we also have comments from the Ministry of Transportation saying that they have to be notified of this, that the subject sites described appears to be located within the MTO permit control area for QEW. As a result, the applicant should be made aware that an MTO building and land use permit will be required from this office prior to the start of any on-site work or construction or works. Further, MTO requests that the drawings be drawings related to be sent to this office for review. These comments are preliminary only, and prior to any MTO permit applications being submitted, the MTO requests that the city circulate the official site plan application for the subject site review, where we will provide more detailed comments. So that's just for information purposes and to be made aware.
Yeah, it's not recommended as a condition, I hope.
No, not a condition, no. Thank you.
Is the owner or the representative here? Would you like to speak to the committee at all or add to the reports? If we could just get your name and address if you'd like to come forward. Thank you.
My name is Haroon and I'm representing here Amanpreet Sodhi. I have no problem with, like, staff is already recommending in a positive way to our request to the variances. However, I'm not able to understand why lot grading is required, because we are not touching the lot at The proposed door is above grade door. We're not touching the surroundings of the site at all.
I don't see anybody here from engineering, but can planning staff maybe comment on that? I'm assuming it's just a standard recommendation, but like he says, he's not altering the structure itself, right? They're all interior renovations?
Yes,
And
correct.
adding a door.
Yes, and
Yeah, I
that door
would-
is above grade door, right?
Yeah, I would agree. I also find that these variances are a bit becoming repetitive. I mean, I think we should look at our bylaw because with the need for rental housing, we get more and more of these requests, and it makes it sound like you're building it in a cellar
Yeah.
when it's just a basement apartment, right?
Yeah.
And as long as you meet building code, I don't think why I don't see a need for the whole variance thing.
That's the second city I found that's one.
Yeah. I mean, we're getting more and more of these. We get one every other meeting. In fact, there's another one coming up,
Okay, perfect.
variance for, but that's just my personal comment. But I agree, like, it seems overkill for a site plan on an existing structure, interior change.
Yeah. So,
Any questions from the committee for the applicant or the owner? From the committee? Nobody? Is there anyone in the audience that would speak to this matter? Members of the public? No? Nobody?
No, sorry, can I just say
yeah.
something? That condition should be taken back. The Public Works memo doesn't list that condition, so it's probably just my error. Yeah,
oh, thank you.
yeah.
Any further questions from the committee then? If not, then do I have a mover and a seconder? If you could read the motion, Dylan?
Yes. Be it resolved that minor variance, sorry. A2623 for 26 Olive Street to permit a secondary suite located solely within a cellar, whereas not permitted by section 4.19D in zoning bylaw 1445 as amended, to permit an alteration to the exterior appearance of the dwelling to accommodate a basement entry in the exterior side yard for a secondary suite, whereas per section 4.19C, exterior alterations are permitted to allow for rear basement entries only in zoning bylaw 1445 as amended. I resolve that it be approved because it meets the 4 tests.
Thank you. Seconder? Dan? Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye or raise their hands. Opposed, if any, was carried. So again, there's a 20-day appeal period before it becomes final, and that condition was removed or was not added.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Ilhara.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the last application we have is A2823 for 214 Main Street East. The purpose of this minor variance application is to construct a side entrance staircase to the basement and obtain approval for a second dwelling unit. To permit a secondary suite located solely within a cellar, whereas not permitted per section 4.19D in zoning bylaw 1445 as amended. And this is a picture of the site plan that was circulated with the notice of hearing. This is a picture of the neighborhood for context. These are the current conditions on site. And these are the agencies that have provided comments. There are no conditions on this application and no objections from any of these agencies. However, I did have someone who wanted to speak to this application. Henry? Okay, you're present. Okay, all right.
We'll open it up to members of the public, but we'll first have the owner or their agent speak. Did you wish to, are you the owner? Did you wish to come forward and add any comments or respond? No? You're good? Okay, maybe we'll add committee members first if you have any questions, and then we'll open it up to the public. No questions? Okay, would you like to come forward? Just give us your name and address.
Name is Henry Vanderhayden, live at 212 Main Street East, adjacent to the 214 application property. My only concern is that immediately beside the proposed rear staircase, not that it says that in the application, it says side entrance. The rear staircase, there's a 100-year-old locust tree immediately adjacent to the property line, which if they dig down, they're going to disrupt the root system of that tree. Now, the tree is probably 45, 50 feet tall, and if they do dig there, that could compromise the health of the tree. So I would ask committee if you could see about relocating that staircase or do an above-ground staircase. My issue is not with the actual unit itself, it's just the entrance in and out of that rear part of the building. Because you can see if the structure of that existing, pardon me, the existing property is made around that tree. If you look at the L shape of that property.
We're just going to get the site plan up.
Sure.
So we've. Yeah. Do we have an interior layout? Like, is there any way it can be moved? Is it Mr. Hussain? Did you wish to respond, or is there a way around this? Maybe we can have him come forward and address the committee.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Basically, the tree he's referring, the tree is almost, I would say, like 15 to 20 feet away, 15 feet away from this digging part. And at that point of, we are digging it most probably 7 feet by 4 feet. And we go down most probably 6 feet. So the tree most probably more deeper than that, because it's an old tree and it is I would say like 15 to 20 feet in his land, on his land, not on my land. And I would say it's not going to affect anything to that tree. There is no tree nearby.
Do you have a picture of the front elevation of that house? Is the tree in the front?
No, at the back, inside his yard. And that is almost from this specific area, 15 to 20 feet away. And it is an old tree, and most probably it is much deeper than that, 6 feet. Because we already have foundation by, say, 10 feet down there. So there is no root over there. And if there is a root, it must be down there, way down there. You can Google and you can see the trees. And another thing is that this is the only way to get inside the basement cellar area, because rest is there's a bedroom and all those things, and there is the furnace area and stuff, so we cannot move. This is the only open area to get inside. And as per the notice says basically we do not need variance for that staircase. It says in the notice. Initially, I've been told we need it. That's why I applied for both. And on the notice, it says it's only like few feet difference. So it says on the notice it does not require, but it required the cellar to be considered as a second unit.
Yeah, so the variance is actually just to permit the apartment in the basement.
I think so.
It's not to permit the
It's already
location
approved.
of the stairs.
Yeah, staircase is already approved,
Right.
basically.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the tree is not going to be hurt, because it's very old tree and it must be like 20 feet down. The roots must be way down there. And it's all over. It's not like only
Yeah,
6
the
by
roots
10.
are not only down.
Yeah, but.
They're over.
Yes, definitely.
They're
That's what I'm saying. It's all over. And if you dig in, even if a few roots are there, it's not going to hurt anything because it's way too far away from the tree. I would say like 15, 20 feet.
Yeah, you can't.
15 feet
you
at
can't
least.
throw it.
No. It's not 15 feet.
No.
That's an interesting point, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any further questions from the committee for Mr. Hussain or the neighbor? So, yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious with the Heritage Group here, was there anything about the neighboring house that there would be an impact for?
If not, any further questions, then do I have a motion on this application? I mean, keep in mind, the application is for the variance to allow the basement apartment, not necessarily the location of the stairs. I mean, if there's a way around it, if there's some impact, or during construction, they can take care if
Yeah,
there's no
we'll take care of it,
alternative.
definitely. We'll see. But
Right?
I'm sure we are not going to get any big root or major root over there because it's too far. I would say like where you sit, and here we are digging.
The tree is right beside the fence line.
Yeah, we can see it. We can see it from the picture.
You can
Right.
see it.
And if you look at the measurements on the backyard, there's a 12-foot discrepancy between the end of the stairs and the property line. 12 feet. I can show
Do you
it
have a
to you.
picture of where the tree's located?
I have a partial picture that I took when I was there.
Oh, that's just part of the tree. Right here.
And this is like,
243.
I would say 3-4 feet inside that fence line.
This is the house here. This is the
Is there any way I can get a guarantee from the arborist that the tree won't be damaged? Just to run that.
Yeah.
I need some kind of guarantee, because if that tree comes down and hits our house,
How it is going to come down? There is no way if you cut a root,
I'm not an arborist.
you're talking about 365-degree roots. And
Yeah.
we are digging in only 10 by, like 7 by 3 feet.
The digging of the
How-
staircase is about 5 feet from the tree base. 5
No,
feet.
but tree base is all around 365 degree. It's not gonna only have one root which is coming to that way.
That's what
So
I
it's an
mean.
exaggeration of the situation, I believe.
I'm not an arborist, I can't speak on that, so we'll need some guarantees. that-
And we already have approved staircase and.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to have to cut you off there. So any other questions from the committee member hearing the concerns and the actual request for the variance?
I have a question.
Yep, go ahead, Vavia.
I noticed on some of the other paperwork with the lots that there is an arborist or a tree specialist involved. Why wasn't there one on this one? That's my question. That's a very old tree. Grimsby is part of the Carolina, scheduling, and we have a lot of interesting trees around. Just wondering why that tree wasn't considered.
Bianca's going to speak to that. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Michaela? Not Bianca.
Yeah, through the chair to Member Billings, it wasn't considered because the town doesn't deal with trees on private property. We would only engage an arborist on behalf of the town if it were on public property through our Public Works Department in the operations segment. So since the tree is on private property, it really does end up being a civil matter between the neighbors that the town is not involved in. Thank you.
Thanks, Michaela. There's your answer. If you don't mind just having a seat, then we'll deal with the application now. Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Or suggestions? If not, then do we have a motion? With or without a condition?
Mr. Chair, just to be clear, the location of the stairs is not something that we are being asked to determine, correct? This is simply
Correct.
the existence of the, right.
So is there any way to flip the location to the opposite corner?
Opposite corner is we have the rooms and the furnace. This is the only open area where you can get inside and then use the location. It's already.
Is there a way to make it, instead of sticking out the stairs that way, run it along the side of the house? In other words,
Other side we have residue and we have already concrete structure, so it's not
right.
possible. This is, and plus we tried. Initially we tried, but the thing is, if you rent it out to somebody, how you gonna?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, was the answer to switching the stairs so they run along the side of the house, was that possible or not?
No, there's a concrete patio there in that location right now.
Thank you.
And then it does make difficult for moving furniture and so on, because now you're turning at the bottom of the stairs. Were his comments, sorry. Maybe I had him sit down too early. We can't hear his response online. Any suggestions? Dylan?
No, my suggestion would be I will make the motion and then the committee can then decide whether they wish to approve the minor variance or not.
Okay, can you read the motion then?
Certainly. Let me just make sure. Oh, sorry. Be it resolved that minor variance application A2823 for 214 Main Street East to permit a secondary suite located solely within a cellar where it is not permitted by section 4.19D and zoning bylaw 1445 as amended be approved as it meets all four tests. I so move.
Seconder? I mean, I would agree with you. It doesn't talk about the location of the stairs. And if there is going to be an issue of the tree, it's really between the two landowners to deal with, not the town. Although we are concerned for it, it's really just, it is still between the two owners if something were to happen later, right? So you are opening yourself up to that with your neighbor if something were to occur. And it's not the town's issue to get involved with, in my opinion. So, and we've heard from staff in that sense. So do we have a seconder on this? Adam, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye or raise their hand. Opposed, if any, was carried. So what is carried, it is subject to a 20-day appeal period before it becomes final and binding, but I suggest maybe you look at alternatives here if it's possible for the location. Okay, thank you very much.
So as for my understanding, it's approved in.
Yeah, up to, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, I believe that's it on the agenda this evening. If there's anything else under miscellaneous, or I wish staff would consider changing that provision in the bylaw about cellar apartments, because we get them, like there's two tonight, and I know it sounds worse than it is. You know, a basement apartment doesn't sound so bad, but a cellar sounds like a medieval, torture chamber. And the alteration, I know I'm talking to you, but it goes way back, but Michaela, but the alteration thing too, I know it just seems so minor to because someone wants to add a door or a front door to a basement apartment.
It's just to prevent it looking like there's like a bunch of like duplexes or semi-detached within like these single detached neighborhoods. It's really just
What if they make it as of, isn't it as of right now, though, you can build 3 units on a lot?
you can, but there's still provisions in the zoning bylaw that you would have to follow. So like you can do a secondary suite as of right, as long as it works like with our secondary suite policies, and then you can do
Yeah. Adam? No,
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, we couldn't hear the last part of that when the microphone was switched off, but my initial comments were actually that before you actually started talking about it was I was going to suggest something about that I don't know, maybe at the next meeting we bring forward a motion to send to council that they consider putting forward some kind of zoning bylaw amendment just so it sort of streamlines the process and doesn't have to have applicants coming back to us.
I would agree with that, but in the meantime, I believe we're adjourned, right?
Recording stopped.